Greetings, and welcome to the review of the essential elements of the Indiana Area School District Health and Safety Plan as it pertains to the senior high school. My name is Wade McElhaney, and I serve as the principal of Indiana Area Senior High School. On behalf of Mr. Johnson, our assistant principal, and our school community, we thank you for your time and attention to review this information. We will review the essential categories of facial coverings, social distancing, cafeteria and other dining areas, and student arrival, drop-off, and dismissal times. In each slide, you will discover corresponding page numbers and graphics of the district plan for your reference. We invite you to review the plan in its entirety. Also, please find at the end of the document a reference page of video clips of important information that is explained in settings throughout our school. The videos feature our school nurse, Ms. Brenda Pierce, parent, Ms. Jennifer Sheasley, Mr. Johnson, our assistant principal, and myself.
Thank you, Mr. McElhaney. Page 5 and 6 of Indiana Area School District's Health and Safety Plan discusses the use of facial coverings. It's important for all individuals to understand that students will be in a variety of different areas and settings during the school day, and the following guidelines will need to be observed regarding facial coverings during the school day. Although IHS will apply and follow the same guidelines, due to space constraints and other factors, there are some areas and places that will follow slightly different protocols. Students will need to follow our protocols for bus rides, entering or exiting school, moving through a hallway, in classrooms, and in the cafeteria. First, let's discuss the guidelines. Face masks or shields need to be worn indoors at all times unless 6 feet of social distancing is possible. It is important to realize that school buildings were not designed for students to always be able to maintain 6 feet of social distancing, which is why students will be required to wear masks in many of the places in our building. We will briefly discuss some of the different situations that students will face on a daily basis. While on buses, students will be expected to have their masks on for the entirety of the bus trip. Students will need to have their masks on while entering or exiting the school building. The reason being is that students move around, is it impossible for 6 feet of social distancing to be maintained at all times. The same applies when students are moving throughout the building. While moving through the hallways, students will need to wear a mask. At any given point, a student could pass another student, which would mean that those two students would be closer than the required 6 feet. Also, when students are changing between classes, many other students will also be in the hallways. So it is important for all students to wear their masks because it's virtually impossible for all students to maintain 6 feet of social distancing during this time. Another important topic to discuss are mask breaks. Mask breaks will occur while students are seated at their lunch table. It is important to know that the only time that students are permitted to remove their masks during lunches is while they are seated at their table. Students will wear masks while they are in line in the cafeteria or moving from their table. Students may also request to have a mask break during their classes. Those will be handled very similarly to the way that bathroom breaks would have occurred both prior to and during COVID-19. However, in this case, students will be able to step outside of their classroom to remove their masks, as there will be few, if any, other students in the hallways at that time. It is also possible for students to remove their masks inside of instructional areas. However, this may only occur when 6 feet of social distancing is possible at all points during the time that masks are removed. Many factors will contribute to this being possible. However, the size of the class and number of students in the class are two of the biggest factors. It's also important to understand that there are documented exceptions to this policy. Our district will follow all mandates and laws governed by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and those laws governing 504 plans. If you have any questions or concerns, you may reach out to Senior High School Principal Mr. Wade McElhaney or Assistant Principal Mr. Doug Johnson. Thank you.
Social distancing is the cornerstone of our approach to promote student, staff, and faculty health and safety. There are three basic elements to our health and safety plan: facial coverings, hygiene, and physical distance to the maximum extent possible when in school. Please remember that we are a facial covering school. Wearing facial coverings includes when riding the bus, entering the building, attending class, transitioning in hallways following posted travel signs, and very importantly, in the cafeteria when students can remove masks only when they are seated. We will help each other with encouragement, support, and reminders. It will be an adjustment for our school community. Patience and tolerance will help to make the necessary change occur effectively. We must work together and help each other by following established health and safety guidelines and rules that best safeguard all of us against the spread of germs at the senior high school. We expect our senior high school students to follow and set good examples for our school community. We are counting on our students to help lead the way. Feel free to contact the school should you have any questions about social distancing.
Thank you, Mr. McElhaney. The next topic covers our cafeteria and dining area procedures found on page 14 of our IASD Health and Safety Plan. There are a variety of different topics that need to be covered for our cafeteria and dining areas, and although they are listed numerically, they are not listed in any particular order. The first one that we'll discuss deals with the very first thing students will do as they walk into the cafeteria, and that is use hand sanitizer. Students will have been moving through the halls in order to arrive at the cafeteria or gymnasium and will already be wearing facial coverings. However, it is important to note that it is a requirement that students wear facial coverings while in line and moving to their tables to eat. In addition, appropriate places to stand in line will be marked by green tape that is placed on the floor so that the students do not overcrowd a given area. The nature of our social distancing while waiting in line will mean that the cafeteria lines will extend into the hallways, where there will also be green marks for students to stand on while they are waiting in line. Once students are seated and before they begin to eat their meal, students will be able to remove their facial coverings. This is made possible because our cafeteria seating arrangement has been redesigned so that students will be able to sit at least 6 feet apart from each other at all times while eating. We were able to do this by removing our original octagonal tables that would have only been able to sit 3 and replace those with smaller rectangular tables that are 6 feet long and seat 2 students at each table. If a student needs to get up and move to use the restroom, to go purchase additional items, or just move around the cafeteria, that student will need to put their mask back on as they are now considered to be in motion. In an effort to clean and sanitize our cafeterias, once students have eaten their food, the students will be released from the cafeteria or the gymnasium where they were eating and head to the auditorium, where they will wait with masks on and social distancing observed until the bell rings for them to proceed to their next class. Once students have exited the cafeteria or gymnasium and have traveled to the auditorium, students will sit in or stand by alternating seats inside of the auditorium, which are now designated with green dots. If you have any questions or concerns, you may reach out to high school's principal, Mr. Wade McElhaney, or assistant principal, Mr. Doug Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Johnson. We have several arrival points at the senior high school. Each entry point is identified for different groups of students. The new gymnasium entrance is for student drop-offs, student drivers, and student walkers. The lower commons area entrance is for bus riders and student walkers. The ideal entrance is for full-time ideal students and T3 health hybrid room students. The upper commons entrance is for bus riders, special needs students, late students, as well as any pre-approved visitors. The 6th Street Hill entrance is for student walkers. The Technology Education Wing entrance is for student drivers and walkers. Students will wear facial coverings when arriving to any entry point. Temperatures will be taken. Any student who has a temperature of 100 degrees or more will be accompanied to the nurse by a staff member for a follow-up health check. Drop-off students will receive temperature checks while seated in their vehicles. Any student who has a temperature of 100 degrees or more will be taken home by his or her parent or guardian. The parent or guardian will telephone the school nurse for follow-up information and instruction. We will utilize a schedule of staggered dismissal times for over 900 students to reduce the congestion of students leaving the building at one time. The schedule of dismissal times will include 5-minute intervals of dismissal times for student pickups by parents and guardians, bus runs, student walkers, and student drivers. Due to the numbers of students leaving the building at whichever staggered dismissal time, students will wear face coverings until they leave the property and continue to wear facial coverings on the ride home on school buses. Please feel free to contact the school should you have any questions about student arrivals or drop-offs or dismissal times. Thank you.
On behalf of Mr. McElhaney and myself, I would like to once again thank you for watching our presentation of the senior high school's plans and how they pertain to the Indiana Area School District's Health and Safety Plan. I would also like to thank Nurse Pierce and Mrs. Sheasley for their expertise and efforts as we collaborated to make this project an entire community effort. For more information about specific areas inside of our school and procedures that will be followed, you may continue to watch this video presentation as we discuss other topics such as arrival and drop-off times, screening and school nurse information, travel after entering the building, classroom procedures, mask breaks, what travel during the day will look like, lunch and cleaning procedures, self-reporting, and collective efforts and benefits. We thank you for your participation and interest. If you have any additional questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to Mr. McElhaney or myself. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Greetings. Welcome to Indiana Area Senior High School. My name is Wade McElhaney. I serve as the principal here at Indiana Area Senior High School. On behalf of Mr. Johnson, our assistant principal, our faculty and staff, we welcome you to this review of the Indiana Area School District Health and Safety Plan as it pertains to the senior high school. Today we have two special guests with us, first of whom I'd like to introduce Ms. Jennifer Sheasley.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Sheasley. I have 3 students, one who has graduated, and I have a coming 12th grader and a coming 9th grader in this building.
And also, thank you, Ms. Sheasley. Also, as a special guest we have here today, our school nurse, Brenda Pierce. Ms. Pierce?
Hi, my name is Brenda Pierce, and I'm the school nurse here at Indiana Senior High. Many of the students may remember me as the nurse from the junior high, but I'm looking forward to my first full year here at the senior high.
As you can see right now, I'm standing in front of the new gymnasium. This entrance is unique because students can come from 2 different directions. Students can come from the student parking lot, which will also include students that are dropped off by their parents and walkers entering from 5th Street. Students can also come from Knox Street, moving from that direction. It's important to realize that those 2 students do have one major difference in that the students coming from the student parking lot will have already been screened by a teacher further down the sidewalk. Students from Knox Street will not have. So when you get to this entrance, it's important to realize that students from Knox Street will enter in the right side door, and students coming from the student parking lot will enter down the left. There'll be a divider that's not yet here, but it'll be in the middle to separate the 2, And students need to make sure that when you're coming from either direction, you enter the appropriate doorway so that we can follow our protocols.
This is the entrance that is used for drop-offs in the morning as well as student walkers. They pertain to the new gymnasium entrance. Parents and guardians, when you enter the student lot at the middle entrance, as usual, for student drop-offs, you'll drive up to where I am located. A staff member will conduct a temperature check of your child. If your child's temperature is 100 degrees or more, the staff member will direct you to take your child home. Please call the school nurse for any follow-up instruction or information. This is the student entrance in mornings for students who ride buses and walkers. Students who get off the buses here at the lower commons area will be temperature checked by staff, as well as the walkers who use these doors. Students will enter these doors using the hand sanitizer station and proceed to moving about the building. This is our entrance for ideal students and students who will also be scheduled for classes in the T3 room. Students who enter here will also receive a temperature check and are expected to use the hand sanitizer station prior to entering the building. Nurse Pierce?
And students who are entering here, we also ask that you wear your mask, have it properly placed over your nose and mouth as you enter the building.
This is our upper commons entrance. It is used for students who ride the buses in the morning. It is also for our special needs students and for our substitute teachers. They will come up to the building, they will use the hand sanitizer, and as they enter the building, they will receive a temperature check from staff.
Students and special visitors, as you approach the building, we ask that you have your mask properly placed over your nose and mouth, as it may be difficult to social distance as you enter the building.
Mr. McElhaney, what do I do if I need to drop my student off late or those who are coming in after normal drop-off hours?
Thank you, Ms. Sheezy. It's a good question. Students who arrive late to school, like normal procedures, will use this entrance. When they come up the entrance, again, as Nurse Pierce said, we want students to be wearing their facial coverings, to use the hand sanitizer, and they will receive a temperature check when they arrive to the main entrance. This is our 6th Street Hill entrance for student walkers. Those students who will be coming down the hill from 6th Street will enter the building here. They will use the hand sanitizer station, receive a temperature check here, and enter the building. Nurse Pierce?
Students, as you approach the building, we ask that you have your mask properly placed over your nose and mouth, as it may be difficult to social distance as you enter the building.
This is the technology education wing entrance that our students use who park in the rear of the building along Knox Street. Students who park in those rear parking lots will descend the stairs and approach the building. When approaching the building, students will use the hand sanitizer machine and receive a temperature check from staff.
Students, we ask that you have your mask properly placed over your nose and mouth as you approach the building, as it may be difficult to social distance as you enter the building. Whether a student is entering the building or throughout the day, if they're found to have a temperature of 100 degrees or greater, they will be escorted to the nurse's office as a follow-up visit. There are many reasons why a student may have a fever, COVID being only one of them.
Hi, I'm Mr. Johnson. I'm the assistant principal at the senior high school. I'm going to talk to you about what to do once you've entered the high school. You'll notice that there's a variety of entrances in the building. So for starters, I'm going to talk about what to do when you enter the upper commons. You'll notice that traffic goes in multiple directions when you are in the upper commons. That's okay. When you're traveling through the upper commons, you can move about in either direction. However, once you leave or are about to leave the upper commons, your options do become more limited. When entering into the academic wing of our building, you'll notice that all of the traffic moves in a counterclockwise direction. So that means to you, if you're entering off to my right here by Mrs. Duffy's room or Mrs. Dadson's room, that is an exit only. You cannot enter into that doorway. However, if you move through the upper commons off to the right here, you'll notice in Mr. Nath's direction that you can move down into the academic wing of our building and move around the building. You also notice then that as you're moving around off to my left behind me, that those stairs are exit only as well, which means then if you want to get to the upstairs of our building, you'll also have to continue on past Mr. Nath's room and take the stairs in that direction. If you are moving towards the lower commons or the technology wing of our building, you'll notice that the signs are a little bit different and that those are two-way traffic and you can go in either direction. We do still ask students to be mindful of students moving in both directions, and we ask you to do your best to keep social distancing as you move through the hallway.
When there are two-way traffic signs, we ask that you walk on the right side. Before entering a classroom or another area of the building, you will see the sign that says, "Enter only in mask."
Welcome to a typical classroom here at the senior high school. As you can notice, this classroom is arranged in columns and rows of desks. We'll be promoting such a structure, especially right now. Though our desks are not 6 feet apart, as you can see, they are about 4 to 5 feet apart. Even so, students must wear a face mask or a face shield when they are in the classroom. Now, when students enter the classroom, we're asking students when they first come into the classroom to seat themselves furthest away from the door. That way, other students are coming in, there'll be less interaction or less travel or busyness in the classroom. Now, when the bell rings and students are going to exit the classroom, we would like to do the reverse of that, meaning those students who are sitting closest to the door should be the ones who leave first. This way, we are also limiting the amount of interaction or passing of students in the classroom. And as students go to leave the classroom, as you'll see when they begin walking out the door, there are signs on every classroom door that indicate the direction to which a student must turn. And also, looking in the hallway at the bulkhead, there are arrows on the hallway walls indicating the direction of travel for students. When it comes to mask breaks at the senior high school, there are a few things to know. We will handle mask breaks here at the senior high school similar to restroom breaks. All the student has to do is raise their hand or ask a teacher to have a mask break. They can step outside the classroom, stay in the near area. And because the mask break would take place during class time, there will be few students in the hallway anyway. If a student would say, hey, can I have a mask break, restroom break? Then that student can exit the classroom the same way. On their way to the restroom, because there'll be very few students in the hallway, they can remove their mask and use the restroom. We do ask, though, when they go into a restroom, if there are other students in there, the students are expected to keep on their mask. And the student then returns to the classroom after their mask or restroom break. Whether you have an urgent need to visit the nurse or the restroom or the school counseling office or the main office or a fire drill or emergency evacuation of the building, you may disregard the hallway signs to take care of your health, hygiene, or emergency response needs.
Upon entering the cafeteria, there will be a hand sanitizing station. Then we'll ask all students to hand sanitize before going through the line. We also want the students to keep their masks properly placed over their nose and mouth while they are going through the line and until seated at their table.
And in the cafeteria, when students enter, after hand sanitizing, like Nurse Pierce said, adorning their face mask or shields, you'll notice on the floor there are green dots. Ms. Sheasley is standing. When students enter the cafeteria, they will be masked and must social distance 6 feet. The reason is because we'll have students sitting at their tables who will be eating. And just like the classroom instruction we provided before, when students enter the cafeteria and when they obtain their food, we want them to move as far away from the cafeteria doors as possible. Only when students are seated, they may remove their face mask or face shields. So when students come into the cafeteria, there are green dots identifying social distance of 6 feet. Additionally, we place these ropes, the crowd control ropes here. Students will proceed along here. And enter the cafeteria door here. Still masked, they'll go through the line, they'll obtain their meal selections, and then they will exit this door. Now you notice that there are green markings to the left and right of this door. Students will proceed through there. And again, as students obtain their food and get a seat, they should be moving furthest away from the cafeteria doors. Now students have 2 places where they can eat. One is in here in the cafeteria. And something we can say is that we removed all of the large round or octagonal tables here in the cafeteria. Cafeteria seating now is limited to 2 students. We have 6-foot tables. This is 6 foot between the chairs where students can dine. If a student chooses to eat in the new gymnasium, they will obtain their food. They will proceed to the other side of the cafeteria where there is a stairwell. Now when students walk over there, it says, "Stop, do not enter." That sign is only for the normal course of the day. However, for lunch travel, we need students to go down that stairwell, proceed to the new gymnasium. where there will be a table set up very similar to this. There'll be long tables and chairs with social distancing. And the same applies when they enter the new gymnasium. They must wear a face covering, whether it's a face mask or a face shield. So when they're in motion, they must have on that face shield or face mask. And at the senior high school, we were saying masks in motion. Now, toward the end of lunch, it is important that we are able to clean the table surfaces and the chair surfaces. So with about 10 minutes remaining in each lunch period, students from the cafeteria and students from the new gymnasium will exit and go to the auditorium. Our auditorium can seat 611 students. So our students can be spread out in the auditorium. They'll remain there for the final minutes of their lunch period while the tables and chairs are being cleaned by our staff. From there, they'll be dismissed to their next period classes.
Included are the layouts that we currently have for both our original cafeteria and the new gymnasium, which is functioning as our auxiliary cafeteria.
Sometimes during the day, students will start to feel sick or ill. After all, this has been going on for years. Students needed to come down to see the nurse, so it's not going to go away just because something else exists. However, when you come down, the process for that is a little bit different this year. When you come down, you're going to talk to Miss Pierce. She'll take it from there.
Yes, upon entry into the nurse's office, Mrs. Harper or myself may see the student and do a COVID screening tool with them to assess for signs of COVID. If a student has at least 2 symptoms of COVID, they will be isolated in our office. We have an isolation room, and then a parent will be notified to come and pick the student up.
Thank you very much for joining us and watching these video references. We want to assure you that we take the health and safety of your children to be very important. Also, the health and safety of our faculty and our staff is also important. We thank you also for talking with your children to encourage them to be mindful of those health guidelines that we have in place and to practice those with fidelity. I'd like to also thank our guests today, Ms. Jennifer Sheasley, a parent of our students. Also, we have school nurse Pierce and assistant principal Mr. Doug Johnson.
Thanks, Mr. McElhaney. Parents and community, we want you to know that we hope that this video helps you understand that we've put a lot of work into making sure that our building is as safe as it can be. We understand that it's difficult not knowing exactly what's happening inside of school, and we hope that this video provides just a little bit of insight into what's happening here. But parents, I can promise you, rest assured knowing that your students will be able to ask questions of any adult in this building anytime they have any questions. And I can promise you this, there's enough signs in this building that it's going to be hard to get lost. So, as your students are sent to school, know that we're doing our best, and we will continue to do our best to make sure that social distancing is observed and that we are keeping our community and our school as safe as possible.
As a healthcare professional, I want to remind you the importance of facial coverings, social distancing, and washing your hands. When washing your hands isn't possible, the use of hand sanitizer to stop the spread of COVID.
And I just wanted to thank everybody for inviting me as a parent in here today and to help you guys get a sneak peek into what the Indiana Senior High School will look like for your students this coming school year.